Okay, so Master Mason note. Well, my dreams of being the director of information technology. Pretty well, go figure. I got my application back from them guys, or my thesis here. And again, this is a lot for me. I did a lot of this in a few different places. Obviously, again, I worked Delaware Basin Stone to get the programming aspect of it, the Master Mason walkthroughs, the saw maintenance schedule systems that I had to form. I had to make all this stuff while working into a place. And, whether it's punching in computers and information and redesigning Delhi's prison system forms, like their computer terminal to transmit information, it's already done. It's why they don't need a damn director of information technology, and why there's still a hole for that spot for quite a long time. You don't need nobody. And they don't have the fucking skills to do any better. And even if they do, they don't know how to engineer the internal mechanics. It's a STEM game. It's great when you can invent a thing, and there's a lot of adventures going on. But the patent says there's a lot of forms that can kind of come in. And so, like, how you transmit the information, the training of the crew, how that program works, and pretty much everything that falls apart after they stop giving a fuck. Because training, Delhi County Prison, or Delhi County there, what are you doing to train these kids? How do you base a grade off of this? How do you base a function into this so it's sensibly functional? How do I know that they even were formed by any psychologist, or what they might have learned through some probation or job? I mean, how the hell are we supposed to do that? You meet up with the judge and then it's done? Let's do something sensible here. Give a little freaking physics, why don't we? So you'd have to go about basically changing all the grid forms, or using the ones that they have and opening up the HTTP JavaScript code and augmenting new situations for this. This is not complicated at all. It's usually you don't go messing around with this stuff because somebody comes beat you with a crowbar unless you got the proper STEM mods and safeties so your AI don't get a hold of the clicker on you. I'm not saying you're going AI, but the process of how the human walks this is that guy with the finger on the clicker, the monkey with the camera. It's like, hey, see this hole right here? I know your world is perfect, but it's not. Of course, the guard's doing pretty good. I've been through. Matter of fact, I know, because while I was in there, in Delhi County, I actually did a full entire notebook process covering code sequences, Monty Poly. You can get into some computer bits of this, a little bit of computer engineering on here, schematicking, whether they be home yard, landscapers maps, or re-engineering the blueprint functions of your house. In a lot of ways, again, scale maps, how we go about teaching them. I mean, if they weren't not aware of a constant or how that constant applies on the ground, well, you're going to have big issues with big holes in the math and the time and the mass and the calculations of this stuff, yeah. So again, I spent a lot of time in Delhi County. I built a process that worked for me inside of those things while I was there. I understand the morning rotations, the get up, I had a good chance to view what it was. Of course, this was before Como made new rules on it. But let's face it, at best, all you're going to be able to refine out of this is some military application at this point. I really don't know the criteria, the system, but I imagine most of those are going to want to go back to a civilian base and not necessarily military base, depending on the extremities of the case, the hold section, and basically what you're learning along the course of the line before you settle up. And how jails have to communicate this information back and forth with one another on a overall hub base. So firstly, I know do this, you're missing the purpose. It's a much larger function because a lot of other stuff gets tied into this as well. It's just good to have names from the college or a prisoner and y'all equal, right? I know it sucks like hell, but the grade should make the difference. You need people who can do the work. And I know you think like that stuff's heaven. It's always a miserable fit. It's work. Why they call it work. So, again, our office received your application and credentials for the Director of Information Technology and have determined that you have not met the minimum qualifications. It may be understanding, it is my understanding you received a copy of the official job description when you were in the personnel office, which states the qualifications for a title of the requirements. You have formal training and in recent education degrees for the regional access New York State Region College or University. Now, I've done a lot of research. Done a lot of research on the information and director technology here. Those are the criteria. Not some bullshit on a piece of paper. Master's degree could come in biology. Could come in whatever small form. You guys, again, are trying to limit this at the desk. Most people, if they don't understand, because let's face it, that MIT guy that used to be there was probably real freaking smart and lit all your asses up, and none of you know how to do the job. Because you take a computer programmer from down the road, they don't need a goddamn master's degree, and you show them the limitations of that freaking position. If you're not going to do that, have them get into the college, have them get into the prison, have them get in your workforce program, and have them integrate a military militia function. So that means integrate some Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force function in that area, because obviously you freaking need it. You have kept a copy of your thesis, good. This is a training program. This is how I used to do it in Stone Mill with assholes. It's how I used to train the managers. It's how I went about the mechanics to understand the serviceability ratings on the functions of the machines, because nobody had ever trained them. And you sure shit ain't getting it there, and if it doesn't work in the Stone Mill, I know sure as hell you're getting it wrong up top. This is your region. Not some fucking professors or some guard whose hard ass is doing stupid shit. Responsibility how to do this correctly. Get them on a freaking thesis. So, continue that. Obviously, I have what is transmittable towards the math gap, the STEM Millennium math problems, and how it goes about engineering things like Hunter's Prize in terms of their value of a STEM problem of millions of dollars each for these problems. Condensing something of 100 megabytes below 12 megabytes was the original form of the Hunter's Prize as I found it. Condensing something like engineering in mathematics is an A-B transition. So I'm not just going down below the level of 10 megabytes. I'm going into the level of negative numbers. We're talking about the quantum number here that is this 1-0 translation, this A-B connection between engineering and being a potter. You take a shape of metal, you put it in an air turbine, whatever, with the smoke signals, and you're all of a sudden some expert on acoustic flutter for a freaking plane. This is a problem. Got to understand the mass gap, the proper communication of those steps, and sure as shit what it takes to have the limitations of that aspect of this contract is absolutely discriminative, seeing that most of you don't even know the job. You're going to give it to some asshole, and they're just going to take advantage of the fucking system anyways. Stock and Corona, everybody's all up in here. Sure as shit, you don't need to be an inside trader to understand and start getting in the survivalist game. Start going for the basic resources and milk and corn when Corona's out, when everybody's scared shitless. Regardless of whether it is or not. Everybody has to be constantly aware of this. You are not prepared. You do not do extra. You die. It's called survival of the fittest. It's never changed. The rules are the same as they were in the jungle before as they are today. They still follow the same rules. As long as they exist, that's what that is. And honestly, y'all getting bossed around by a gorilla that may not know what the hell they're doing. And certainly the fact that you have those positions open and nobody's acting as gate guardian for you. This is my Horseman Code. It's a program I teach to aspect what a college professor's job is supposed to direct through based on the energy and the costs of something like Delhi and the transposition, whether it be language to boxes, to scales, to computer programs, to MOSFET switches, circuit boards, and resistors that go in the engineering and the psychological triggers it takes to make this right. One's the engineering form in one, the other is in the other. You take a list of the one, and you take a list of the other, you do the STEM testing on these programs, or you listen to your goddamn experts, because they trust to know those numbers on the resistors and servos, and you work with them. Even the Murphy you are has to be able to understand whether this is the correct action or not. You have to do research time on this. It is undeniable. If you do not do research, you will not understand the information, and this is a paradox of time. You will have to do the research. Even scientists will tell you, make sure you're refreshing your information on what's going on before you begin your research case study. This is code. Money, assholes on the board. If it was just where the physics was popping up, it'd be pretty easy to see where the hole in the dike is and easy to put your finger in it. Apparently y'all don't understand. This is what I like to call A1, my universal field theory, the building model of my case study. And every one of you students, people, or otherwise around me at the moment are going to have to learn to understand this if you want a fucking thing out of me. This is the building of what the STEM problems are and our determined model of what gravity will be in the future. This is augmentable, changeable, relative to the forms in psychology, engineering, and mathematics, if this being N1 relative to N2 in the process of the real-world fields in MN, how this properly functions. But we will be using this as our base model of gravity. Always refer to these numbers as your model in case you get lost in the concept of thinking of how you do. These are all wave functions progressive on the model of the first FMA movement that passes through here. So guess what? You in electricity, it is electricity, but it is also an A-B situation. You'll have to understand the quantum fields with this because people are also transmitting this function in time, resources, and the augmentation of how it forms thermodynamic processes in the heat of the wire, the burned out fuse, and any other model. And we keep this as our hard line. That's why they're important. We will be using them. Beyond that, most of y'all need to understand the differential between turning on a saw and making the ideal case of a reference as a job. Some jobs are like that. They are called anthropology. They require time to get to sites, cost your timelines in life instead of asking somebody else to do the goddamn work for you and expect to pay out. It's not difficult. People have to put in work. All of this will transmit back to whether it be food, water, or shelter, and how it may transmit at the time, and the pressures and gradients of the people and situation, cost lines, time frames, and any other augmented EM field that adjusts the neutrino effect in the wild particle of the idea in scientific ideas in math and astrology, if you will. This is topology. This moment, right here, as you can hear, it gets pretty heavy. You get a lot of stars and bars out here. High-end names, Feynman, Carl Sagan, Einstein, Notam's theorem, Pilot's theory. You could go talk about Schrödinger or Freud. I'm not really particular, but these are your new bars. You will all augment your lay of the land based off of those north movements. You can't beat it, understand it. You can't make one, a Hadron Collider of your own, get a job at it, or find an easier way to do it. I use the stone mill. That's now our gravity. That's how our first object goes. You want to find a different saw, you find a spot for it on the ground. Make sure you train out that function in this system, and this will be your link back to quantum gravity and any other form that'll get you right back into FMA as you need. Parallel off it, build accordingly. Doesn't need to be exactly like that, but understand the function will be graded off of your design in this form. Is anybody? Could be some asshole I don't know next to me. I'm going to start cranking numbers on you. Going to be determination the value of how long I can keep you around or what distance you are from me. Demonologists in some study over here. Bullshit over there. No, it's what you need. I would love to be this passive person for you, but you need a gorilla in this room cranking this Hadron Collider out so mother truckers are getting wung out there where they belong so they can start doing work and pick it up. And remember, hey, you didn't need to come in this class to do research on your own. Feynman, all these things are all out there for where you begin. It is either not in that position, it is in that position, you will have to do the work, or you will have to find a new form in which that work behaves. Period. I don't care if it's workforce. You have all engineering, time, and statistics. That's why I gave them that application, that advantage. If you guys ever need to use it, I do not need this job to begin my work because the work becomes the same regardless if I have it or not. I'm running low on time. There's one moment in my class, something all of my students, if you choose to be in here, should fully understand and start taking seriously.